Welcome to Conversations with Cheryl Weston. We're happy to have you join us tonight. This tonight we're starting our interviews with candidates who are running for election in local positions such as the Omaha City Council and the Omaha City Mayor. And it is those who returned my invite. They are SVP. And we're going to start off asking some of the same questions that were given to each individual. And then we'll get into some of the more personal details about the actual candidate that we're speaking with. As I said, I think it's really important, and I'm trying to do what I can is to encourage people to vote in the primary and in the general. Help people to understand you must be part of that primary. You must vote in the primary for your candidate if you want them to go forth in the general election. And why am I pushing so hard for people to vote is, we went through the national. That's done. It's 2024. It's over with. We got to deal with what we got. But the thing that is so important about local, they make decisions about our everyday life, how our dollars are taxed, how we spend them. Everything is based upon those things that come out. The city council determines what goes. What city planning puts before them, they vote on ordinances, resolutions, recommendation to various committees, boards. So the local elections, folks, are really, really important, really important. And that's the reason why I'm trying to do these before um, the election. Encourage individuals. We're not saying just by being on this conversations with Cheryl Weston is not endorsing any candidate. What we're doing is just want to bring information to you, the public. So, with that said, we'll take a moment here and we will begin. I think we have Miss Harris in. Welcome
Hello.
to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And as I have told our and explained to our audience beforehand, we are doing this interview with you. You RSVP my invite. So some of the questions that we'll begin with will be the same questions that I have offered to ask each candidate, and that we are not endorsing or supporting or not supporting on any candidate, but we want it and we feel it's important for our viewers and those that they may share this with is to get a view from you, the individual candidate, and to have your what you would like to tell the audience. And maybe it's just one more way that you can use. And feel free to share this on your website or Facebook or whatever you want. I'm not holding any and I'm not charging. So with all that said, thank you for agreeing to appear. And I will start off, like I said, with a couple of questions that are the same questions that I would ask all the candidates who would attend. And the first one would be it's kind of a two-part. Why do you think it's important for all registered voters to participate in the local electoral process?
I believe it's really important for people to get involved with making decisions
Mhm.
where they live their daily lives. I know we get really bought into the national elections, and ever since I've been doing a lot of civic engagement work, I've always said your local elections is what impacts your daily life. And so for me, it's really important for people to be able to get involved and to ensure that their voices are being heard through their elections. Many of our local offices are determined by small numbers.
Yes.
And I really think that
Mhm.
people who say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, it really, and I want to tell them it really does matter when it comes to the local
Yes.
offices. There are offices that are won by like 5 votes, 50 votes, like very small numbers. And so
Mhm.
that for me is why it's so important for every voter to get involved in our local elections because we do have the ability to transform how our daily lives are managed by those elections, the city council, the mayoral, even like county commissioners and things like that.
it's very, you hit on a note that I always say too, how important it is. And one of the things that someone had mentioned to me some time ago was, if it wasn't so important and meant so much, why would people be in power? Why would they be trying to put all the barriers up to keep you from voting? That should be like your first clue of how important and how much power you hold in your vote.
Most
Um,
definitely.
I would like to ask, the next question would be, what qualities in a candidate should I, as a voter, be looking for to make my decision to vote for that candidate?
I think you really have to look at not only what a candidate says, but what they do. So they can't just talk the talk, they have to walk it,
Hmm.
number one. And for me, that's integrity and honesty. It's also having the ability to humble yourself enough to put others first. There's an empathetic piece I think you have to ensure that you are connecting with people, not just seeing them as voters. Because the issues that people face daily
Hmm.
are real for them. And they're not just talking points. They're not just election cycle, let's address it at this moment in time. So I think you need someone who is really going to be humble enough to put someone first, be empathetic, have the ability to actively listen. There's one thing to show up and
Hmm.
to hear
Hmm.
what's going on, but to actively listen and be able to communicate what you hear back so that you're getting it right, but also being able to communicate what are the steps you're going to take to address what's being going on. And I also think candidates need to have the ability to collaborate.
Hmm.
None of this gets done by itself. None of it's done in a bottle or a vacuum or a lab. You have to collaborate with folks to get things done. And so I think those are some of the qualities that a candidate needs to have.
Let me, before I ask this next question, I'm going to give the folks a little of the background about you, and then I'll let you give your own background but
Okay.
Jasmine Harris is the director of a public policy and advocacy group. She has led efforts to address criminal justice reform. You have a master's of public health from the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Has been extensively involved in community, and has been a driving force in promoting policy changes in Nebraska. And one of your major goals, and I was at that press conference when it was announced, was restoring voting rights for individuals who have been incarcerated. Your Jasmine's dedication has earned her numerous awards, including the Urban League African American Leadership Award in 2024, and she continues to serve in key leadership roles in her community. So, with that background, I let you introduce yourself and then end it. Why should the voters vote for you?
I thank you so much for reading that. Again, Jasmine Harris. I am a lifelong North Omaha resident. I live 5 blocks from the house I was born and raised in. And so for me, I have always been about community. When I was
Mhm.
younger, I was like, I have to leave Omaha to succeed. And I don't think that should be the
Right.
sentiment. And when I came back, I didn't fall right into doing this work. I didn't fall right into community work. I had some things that I had to work through in life. And, those put up roadblocks and barriers for me. And once I hit those roadblocks, and I was like, if I'm going through so much trouble, people with felony convictions are going through the worst. And I
Mhm.
vowed to myself then that I would show up in rooms and make sure that people had their voices heard, that I would be able to speak truth to power. Because I think what we run into a lot in the work and why I got involved with criminal justice reform work is because once people made a decision that put them on that side, people just nixed them out of everything. But we are told to do better, go back
Mhm.
into society, get over what it is, the decision that landed you in trouble,
Mhm.
and be a productive community member. But there's so many roadblocks that prevent people from being able to do that. And so
Mhm.
I always said that I would speak up and to try to remove as many barriers as possible. So being an advocate down in Lincoln, at the unicameral, I saw how much more work can get done at a local level. Again, that's why it's really important with the local elections,
Mhm.
because when you're dealing with the unicameral and the legislature, there are so many people, so many different views, and a lot of things can get stalled. And when I see and in my local city, in my neighborhood, in the area I live in, the same issues people are going through are the same things I faced over 20 years ago. Like it's the
Mhm.
same issues day in and day out. And for me to say, I want to step in and ensure that people are included in how this city works, because what we see is that the decisions that are made do not work for people. And in order for that to happen, you have to listen and bring their voices. Because I'm a
Mhm.
strong believer that the solutions to the challenges our people face are with them. You don't know what it's like to try and catch a city bus if you have never done it. So you
Mhm.
have to listen to those who are doing it in order to make sure that you're addressing the actual root cause of the problem. And
Right.
that's what I believe I can do, because I am a proven leader of people. Like
Mhm.
you mentioned, one of my biggest things that I worked on for the past 8 years was trying to restore voting rights to people. There were so many roadblocks. Previous
Mhm.
administration
Yeah.
vetoed that, and we finally got it passed this year or last year in 24. Then we were up against the roadblock of the Secretary of State and the Attorney General.
Mhm.
But being a proven leader of people and mobilizing and ensuring that we're on the same page to move things forward to get things done. And that's what I want to bring to the mayoral office. I believe the great candidate because, one, my vision for Omaha will include everybody. I'm saying we cannot continue business as usual where
Mhm.
our current elected officials have us going.
Mhm.
Because, one, continuing business as usual doesn't work. And when we continue business as usual, we all suffer. So I'm bringing in a new perspective, new ideas, and making sure that at the heart of it, it's the people.
So you would say, and that's the reason why you think people should be voting for you. Um, Let me ask you about a couple of the issues that are really, I would say, in the forefront for
Mhm,
Omaha and going forward. What is your thoughts and comments on affordable housing? Because there's a great need. I've attended many city council meetings and other meetings that talks about affordable housing, and they say there's a shortage of 30,000 plus. But I don't see them really doing that. I see them building houses, yes, but not what I would consider affordable,
mhm,
particularly in North and South Omaha. And I want to make sure our viewers understand she's running for the mayor. She's not running for one segment of the city. You're all the city, and affordable housing is needed throughout the city. But I would say in those two particular corridors would be North and South Omaha more than anywhere else, because those are the ones
mhm,
that are uh, where individuals are more don't have accessibility to live
mhm.
in and maybe West Omaha or so forth. What is your thoughts on affordable housing? What do you see that could be possible solutions, or what is the problem?
Yes, thank you for that question. Safe and affordable housing is one of the priorities that I have, that I
Hmm.
want to work towards, right? We and I don't know if many people know, I ran for mayor back in 2021, and I was
Yes.
1,100 votes shy of
Hmm.
advancing to the general. And we pushed for affordable and safe housing then as well. And in that time frame, nothing has changed.
No.
Again, the mayor is continuing business as usual, and it's not working. So for me, safe and affordable housing, one, we have to make sure that we are talking about the definition of affordability, because affordable for me is not affordable for someone else. So
Correct.
we have to make sure that as we're addressing that issue, we all get on the same page of what affordability is for a plethora of people. We also pushed in 2021 where things like the auxiliary dwelling units
Hmm.
finally got passed through city council. So there's processes and procedures that have now been made for that. And what people don't know, that's the ability to build smaller homes, if you
Right.
will, on your property. That can be a solution to some of the problems that we're facing. They finally built the tiny villages down by
Mm-hmm.
Siena Francis House. That was something else we pushed for in 2021. So I'm glad they took some of the things from my platform then and
Mm-hmm.
started putting them into place. But we really need to, again, work with our developers to incentivize for affordable units and use the tax increment financing in the way that it's supposed to be used and not for other projects that don't address our most common and most pressing needs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
That
create.
is one of the issues, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you just hit that, and it was just like perfect because I was going to segue right on into that. So, if you don't mind, if we can kind of go off into that, would you express what your comments and thoughts on this TIF program is really supposed to be about? And one of the things was it's really supposed to have blighted areas, but it's
Yes.
been used all over. So, how do you see that really focusing and working on more affordable?
Oh, it's more about making sure that when we are using TIF and developers are coming in, we need to have stricter oversight of
Hmm.
the developers using tax funded payments for projects.
Hmm.
Um, what comes to mind is the Crossroads project that was announced back in like 2020,
Oh,
2021,
yeah.
still sitting there
Hmm.
with nothing done.
12
And
years.
that developer, that developer has come back to city council asking time and time again for more money. And I know they're
Hmm.
saying, oh, we're getting to it this year.
Hmm.
This year is 1 year too many, too late.
Hmm.
So for me, when we're talking about the definition of how they're supposed to use TIP, or it's blighted areas, we really need to hold them to that and make sure that that money is used in actual blighted areas like North and South Omaha.
One of the things that I'm putting out to the city council is, and I confirmed with Nebraska legislature legal department down there, or one of the senators, is the Omaha City Council could pass an ordinance that would require, and the reason this came up was one of the city council members, when I stood before them as an opponent of one of the TIF projects, I was 95% for, but my main thing was it didn't have anything in there for affordable housing. They clearly said it was all going to be market rate housing. And I was able to show an example of if a person is making, and I gave it a really high salary of $20 an hour versus when
Mm-hmm.
most people are not making
Yeah.
$20 an hour. And so I was one of the city council members said, well, affordable housing isn't a requirement for TIF. And I explained, I fully understand that. My point is, maybe it should be. Would you be willing to work with the city council, or would you want to put forth a recommendation that it should include affordable housing? A percentage. You're not asking for it to be the total because we need to have mixed. We don't need, if you, people don't understand, if you keep putting the same type of income level at in one area, what is that going to become? We need a mixed, but we don't have anything in this TIF that requires affordable housing, a percentage. Would that be something that you would feel that should be looked at and consider?
Yeah, I think if it's a common sense solution, it really should be considered. And I would love to sit down and hear more about your thoughts on that. So that way I am very well versed on it and have
Mhm.
the background and information to it to like continue pushing that forward.
So we talked about that affordable housing. What do you see as, and I did not find your platform online, so here's an opportunity. You tell me, what is your platform?
Yes, most definitely. We are getting the website updated and that will be up there soon. But some of the other things that I'm looking at is public safety. My
Hmm.
background is in public health and I'm all about prevention. And again, bringing that public health and criminal justice reform frame into what we look at as we call public safety.
Hmm.
Everyone always thinks about law enforcement.
Hmm.
Law enforcement is a piece of public safety. It's not the answer to public safety. And so I want to bring in the approaches from that lens of prevention. What are we doing to get to the root causes of crime and not just jumping and saying, okay, crime is all the public safety issue that we need to focus on. So for me, we're looking at the mental health responders unit.
Mm,
When we see that that unit has an increased volume of calls because mental health has been on the rise, we need to address that. Making sure they are staffed and resourced enough to handle the calls is key for me. We all know someone who has gone through a mental health crisis.
hmm
And I would want a mental health responder to show up first before things escalate to where they are in a position where a crime is happening or something terrible happens. I'm also looking at the mental health mobile crisis unit,
hmm
something to where we can go to where people are and serve them there
hmm
versus having to arrest them and detain them, criminalizing the mental health aspect of everything. Um, and then it's also, I think, accountability on both sides. We talk about safety for everyone in our
hmm
communities. So I want to ensure that for our Black and Brown communities, they feel safe when it comes time to have an encounter with law enforcement. So that way, there's accountability on both sides, and everybody leaves those situations safely.
You
Another,
mentioned. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to go into another part of my platform, but if you have a
Go
question.
right ahead. Go ahead.
um, Again, housing is a public safety issue as well. When you look at people
hmm
not being able to lay their head down somewhere, not being able to feed themselves, these are basic needs that need to be met, and people will do what they need to do to get those basic needs met, and that's also the root cause of crime. So making sure that safe and affordable housing is another one of those pieces that feed into public safety as well. Also looking at our ability to connect our city.
hmm
We are spending over $460 million on a
hmm
streetcar to nowhere.
hmm
That money could have been used for something like a light rail system
hmm
or a regional express train between Omaha and Lincoln.
hmm I would agree.
The streetcar was popular in the early 1900s. And for me, that's not a modern solution to our
hmm
transportation issues. So we need to make sure that we are now working with the regional metro transportation authority to ensure that we are connecting all of these different modes of transportation we have and that they're actually working for people. Because you get the comment that, well, we don't have a lot of people riding our public transportation. And what we hear is that we don't ride it because it doesn't work for our everyday lives.
Right.
And so we need to increase that. Also, the development that's happening, like you said, it's all the development along the Dodge Street corridor. We need to make sure that we are building up the rest of our city
Correct.
and that it actually feels like one city and not
hmm
just this disjointed, oh, this is one neighborhood and this is one neighborhood, but making sure that our projects that we are funding actually connect our community. Um, and then economic opportunity. I don't think we can continue to build Omaha off of the backs of everybody's pocketbooks through all these taxes and fees that we see. We need
hmm
to come up with more innovative ways to ensure that the revenue that comes into the city stays in the city and grows our local economy. When we're looking at tourism things, I jokingly say, I remember in 2017 when Taylor Royal ran on bringing a professional like football team or something to
Yes.
Omaha. Like, maybe we should look at that because that would have been all kinds of revenue coming into the city,
Sure.
right? So, coming up with innovative ways and also making sure that our small businesses and entrepreneurial ecosystem has the support they need. I don't know how many restaurants and businesses I saw shutter in the
hmm
past like 2 years. And without having that local economy,
Right.
Omaha will not be able to compete with cities our size.
hmm
And so, focusing on a lot of that and bringing in businesses that are going to pay living wages.
hmm
I know we just had the minimum wage raise here. I think it's what $13, 13.25 an hour,
hmm
and it's going to increase to $15 an hour in
Right.
26, and then incrementally year after year beyond that. So making sure that businesses can actually pay a living wage, like you said, $20 an hour, and most people don't even make
No,
$20 an hour.
not
So to
at
say
all.
to even say that someone can actually buy a house, raise a family off of
Right.
$15 an hour, that's not even true
No.
anymore.
no.
So making sure that we're addressing that for
Hmm.
economic opportunity for everybody across our city.
Those are great. I want to get in one before our time gets away from us. I enjoy talking to you,
Thank you.
with you, not to you, but with you. One of the things that I saw it online was you were asked about, you push back on the assertion of some Democrats that your entry into the race could divide Democratic votes and carve a path to the general election for McDonald. Um, and as you said, you narrowly lost to be third and you came in third in the 2021. And that I again say that's because of low turnout and people don't. And I don't feel like you really got the Democratic Party behind you. Um, are you running this race as thinking that from a Democrat position or nonpartisan? It is a nonpartisan race, so you can be whatever you want to be. Um, how do you, when you say you push back against that, are the Democrats behind you? Or do you feel, again, that you are not dividing the vote, you're providing an alternative?
Like you mentioned, Joe, there's two Democrats in the race right now, myself
Hmm.
and John. And what I think I provide is another opportunity, another alternative for people to say, is this the right person I want in the office to address
Hmm.
the issues that are happening right now? And so when people are saying you're going to divide the Democratic vote, one, again, like you said, it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, the Democratic vote or, what Democrats are going to do it. And if you really want to take it down a level, what I'm saying also, you have to debunk that myth of dividing the vote,
Hmm.
especially if we were to have a partisan election.
Hmm.
You would put up more than one candidate from the party.
Right.
So there's two options in the Democratic Party. Who do you want to move forward? And that's who you pretty much back.
Hmm.
I know they're saying, oh, well, here's McDonald, but McDonald switched to become a Republican.
Hmm.
And so I don't think that necessarily pulls the Democratic vote. He made his decision, and that's the race that he needs to run. And so I think it's really saying to people, you decide what kind of mayor you want, who has the vision for Omaha, and that's who you vote for.
Right. Before we trying to keep, I promised your time, so I don't want to take any away from you. I want to give as much as so that our audience can hear and see you. Um, a thing that I look at, and when people talk about a divide, do you feel like one of the reasons why you want to, as you said earlier, you said about collaboration bringing, do you think we are a divided city at this time?
I think the city falls into the same thing that we see across America. Um, there are divides. There are divides. But I think if people really want to see change,
Hmm.
the city is where we can do it. And I think if we put aside, the labels
Hmm.
of Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, if we focus on the label of Omahan, I
Hmm.
think we can overcome that.
One thing I want to make sure I get at, because I know how people will take something out of context and then run with it, is when you mentioned about the streetcar, you did not say you fully understand we are in it now. we,
Yes.
it's not going anywhere. It is going to go
It is
forward.
here.
You're not
Yeah.
saying we're going to stop the streetcar. One of your opponents have said, maybe we should have. Yes, people should have had more input into it, but that's a done deal. I want people to understand what I heard, and you correct me if I'm not. You were saying that there was an alternative that could have been another way to use that 400 plus $1 million to make it more transportation all the way around instead of the one little section. Did I get that right? Because I want to make sure that I won't see this when it goes public is like, oh, Jasmine is against the streetcar. That's not what she said. Am I
That's
clear
not what
on
I
that or
said.
not?
That is not what I said. So we
Okay.
have this streetcar that is going to serve a small portion of our
Okay.
city. Yes, people should have had the opportunity to weigh in on
Mhm.
it. We are too far in to stop it. If we
Right.
stop the construction on the streetcar now, we would have wasted money. And that's one thing I don't like to see our city do is waste money, because
Hmm.
we have done that with projects that buildings have gone up and buildings have come down within 7 years to
Hmm.
build new buildings. So I'm not about stopping the streetcar project. What I am about is ensuring that we're working with the transportation authority to ensure that that streetcar is going to do more than what it has been planned to do.
One other thing, and you mentioned it, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, is when you said you had to leave the city of Omaha, because you didn't think you could grow or develop or so forth. And that was one thing that I have said for some time is, our young people, we have this drain, the brain drain.
Mhm.
What do you see or think some things might be a solution to help that is to keep that our young people coming back? Creighton is a great school. We have the University of Nebraska and Lincoln there. With these and some other, I mean, why aren't we able to tap into that? And a lot of people come in from out of state to go to school at Creighton or UN. What can we do to, or if you have any suggestions, to keep the young people here and wanting to grow and develop family? Because if you don't have income, pretty soon it's going to drain you, and you're not going to have the dollars.
Most definitely. I know Omaha appears on the list like, one of the best places to raise a
Hmm.
family and things like that. But I think it's also recognizing that sometimes they're only talking about a certain population of folks.
Correct.
And we have to come to terms with that. It is things that people don't want to hear, but,
Hmm.
our young folks are leaving. They're
Hmm.
looking. My youngest two are 10 and 11,
Hmm.
and they're already saying like, "Can we go to college somewhere else?" And I'm like, "You can go to college wherever you want to, but
Hmm.
that shouldn't be something that kids are talking about that early, or thinking about it." We
Hmm.
have you know, world-renowned university, UNMC here, right, where
Hmm.
people are coming to learn.
All over.
Um,
Yeah.
we should bolster that.
Hmm.
And again, getting young folks involved early,
Hmm.
building leadership pipelines for them. I know we talk about college, but college isn't just the only thing.
Correct.
We need to look at career pathways for folks
Hmm.
and how we're working with like Metro Community College on certifications and ensuring those are pipelining into the careers that we see in our city.
Hmm.
So we talk about high demand, high wage, high skill jobs. There's a lot of places that are starting to focus on what they're calling micro credentialing.
Hmm.
And so where people can stack these certificates to then advance themselves in these jobs. Um, I am all for keeping our best and brightest here. I don't think you need to leave this city to be able to compete with anywhere else in the world. And like you say, you get people who come here to Omaha, but then they leave back out because
Just.
one, I hear transportation. It is expensive to own a car and to maneuver
Hmm.
across the city with a vehicle, and people will go back to where their hometown and not
Hmm.
have to have that, as an issue because their public transportation works for them. Say they came from Boston or
Right.
wherever, right? So it's ensuring that we are listening
Hmm.
because this moment isn't about us. My future in Omaha is already now. And so
Hmm.
it's listening to our younger folks because they're the ones who are going to step into these leadership roles, making our city progress. And we need to listen to what they're saying in order to ensure that Omaha can compete with the other cities and that they feel comfortable staying here and
Hmm.
raising their families.
Yeah, I know some of well, we just have two children left that stayed here in Omaha. All the others said I got to get out of here and have done well.
Mhm.
Most of them are entrepreneurs. They work for themselves or have a high managerial position. And that's one of the things. There's still nothing holding them here. No opportunities as they like to tell me. Um, and one other area I would like to see, they don't teach civics in school anymore. What kind of ideals, would you be willing to do something should you be elected mayor is I like to see our elected officials go out more to the schools, work with the school system to encourage young kids, to want to be involved in servicing uh, the government or being involved in a political position. What is your feelings on doing something like that?
I think that would be awesome. I remember having this thought years ago about creating like this summer camp for people
Hmm.
to for youth to come and just it's all based on government, like
Hmm.
learning like your federal, state, and local government and taking on these different positions throughout the summer camp and learning about them and
Hmm.
creating like your own little government. So I think that's a really good idea because we talk about representation and people not knowing that they can see themselves in something unless they have people they can look up to.
Hmm.
We learn civics in fourth grade and I think 10th grade and forget about it as soon as we get adults.
That semester is over. It's like done with that. And
So I
then,
think that's a pretty good idea to just ensure that youth know. Like, so I, side note, I created this program for emerging advocates, and that's one of the things I wanted to do was
advocacy,
take
yeah.
it down to the basics. Like how does the government work? And I heard that people are like, I remember learning this in like fourth grade. And so just to hear adults say, "Oh, I forgot about that," and oh, that's how that works. So I think it's really important to make sure that that's information that travels with it. And as I was doing that, I was looking at the citizenship test. And I was like, how many Americans can
Could
actually pass the citizenship test?
they there did some statistics, some surveys and questionnaires, so forth on that, and not very many were able to answer the questions that are needed. Um, and one last thing, and then I want to turn the last few minutes over to you. What about transparency? Because that really lacks in our local government is transparency.
You can't have trust without transparency. And that's why I think there's a disconnect between our community members and our elected officials. And I think that's why there is an all-time low of trust in our elected officials because there's no transparency. And you have to have transparency when it comes to how things are operating. So I'm all for transparency.
Well, I want to turn these last few minutes over to you, and you can say, do whatever. If you're done, you can say, okay, we're done. But I do want to give you an opportunity without having to be badgered with my questions.
No, those are good questions. I thank you. Thank you again, Cheryl, for inviting me onto your show. I truly appreciate it. This gives me another avenue to connect with people and let them know who I am. Again, Jasmine Harris, a long lifetime resident of North Omaha. Again, I still stay there and I'm raising my family there. And I really truly believe that I'm the candidate to step into this mayoral role because, again, I live this daily. I am all about being there for the people because I am one of the people. I am a person who has to maneuver our city, the disconnectedness of it. I am a person who is there listening daily to the things that people are going through and trying to figure out how can we solve those problems. I'm also listening to people like you, Cheryl, um, people like Sherman and Paul Feilman when it comes to the issues that are going on at OHA and saying, how can we solve these issues? I may not have the full answer, but I know people who are out there working
Mhm.
to get the answer. And I think that's something that elected officials have to have the ability to want to collaborate and work with people who are on the ground doing the work. And so that's what I bring to this. Again, it's not a campaign. This is a movement to ensure that the future of Omaha includes all of us and that
Mhm.
this city works for all of us because I think that's what's lacking. And so I'm saying that I believe I'm the best candidate because from day one, I'll be ready to step in. I'm ready now more than ever. Again, a proven leader of people, working down at the legislature, getting things passed, getting bills passed with working with elected senators, but then taking on that piece to make sure the community is involved and they know what's going on. So I can see it from both sides. And I said we can't continue business as usual because it's not working for us and we're all suffering because of it. So I'm, stepping in the gap for people and ensuring that I'm the voice for people down in City Hall that's going to actually work to get things done for our communities across Omaha. So with that, you can go to voteforjasmine.com. Follow us there. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Jasmine for Omaha. So
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Jasmine. I really enjoyed talking with you, and hopefully we will see more of you, and we give you an invitation to come back, later on in this process as it gets closer to the primary. If you like, the door is open. As I said
Awesome.
to our audience before, it's not to say that we're endorsing. What we're trying to do is to give you a voter encouragement to get out and vote, why you should get out and vote. Um, and I think the national election showed more than ever why it's important to vote.
Yes.
So I think there will be a difference, but like I said, I enjoyed talking with you. And I hope that we'll be seeing more of you. And if you would give your website and Facebook page one more time, and make sure before we end, and then we'll try to put that online as well. Is to get so you can see in a lot of people like to have it. I know I am one of those. I want to see I got to see my print. Um because then that way I can go back and read and say, but please let us know what is your website and your Facebook page again.
Yes, the website is voteforjasmine.com. So VOTEFORJASMINE.com. And the Facebook is Jasmine for Omaha.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, and you have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All righty. Bye. Welcome to Conversations with Cheryl Weston. We're happy to have you join us tonight.